What's up, y'all? It's your boy Booty Noodles, aka Poo Chunks, and I am here today to show you my Flame Reave build that I've been absolutely blasting with. I just got my first Abberoth Kill with it, and I'm super excited to show you guys. I was originally playing Shatter Strike this season and didn't feel like I had a lot of success with it. But as soon as I swapped over to Flame Reave, everything started feeling a lot better after the buffs they did this season. So yeah, let's do a quick walkthrough. I'll show you some gameplay in regular echoes. I'll show you my Abberoth Kill, and then we can dive into the build. So enjoy this gameplay, and we'll be right back.
I spent days on you, willingly wasting them all to watch pain fade in your room. You spend me all. Tell me what you wanna, tell me what you want, and I'll take it there. I'll take it there. Tell me what you wanna, tell me what you want, and I'll take it there. I want you till I overdose. So kiss me to get poisoned as long as we're faded, we'll never be lonely. I want you till I overdose. I want you till every night on you, willing to waste it 'cause I knew that your lies would never come true. You spend me all. Tell me what you want, tell me what you want, and I'll take it there. I'll take it there. Tell me what you want, tell me what you want, and I'll take you there. I want you till I overdose. So kiss me to get poisoned as long as we're faded, we'll never be lonely. I want you till I so kiss me to get poisoned.
Alrighty, so as you can see, build looks great. Damage is fantastic, and oh my god, this new cosmetic is so sexy. It actually, in my opinion, looks even better when you turn it into a circle, but I don't think the circle is actually better because, as you can see, like, you are killing stuff off screen with how far it goes when it's empowered. So anyway, that's the cosmetic. I'm very happy that Last Epoch is finally getting their shit together with these cosmetics. So to start, let us jump into the let's start with the skills. I think that's a good place to start. So here we have, as you'll notice, a ton of skill points in Flame Reave. 34 is pretty crazy for any skill, I think. And we'll dive into how you get this many all through our gear. But there's just a couple important notes to point out here. First one is this conversion to lightning, and then thermopile, which is what's triggering a good number of lightning blasts for us. And lightning blast is just utility in our case, but it's good utility. We like it. It's our source of lightning aegis, which is a huge source of tankiness. So it's good to make sure you're taking this node. Another one is Rhythm of Fire. This is the node that gives you these extra juicy. If you saw that one that just went, that goes really far and does a lot more damage, that's the node that gives you those extra juicy hits. So this is key on taking. This is not as important. I'm using Surge as my movement ability. If you're going to use Teleport or Flame Rush for whatever reason, feel free to put this point somewhere else. Apart from that, everything else here is pretty straightforward. Other than one more important node, which is Flame Caller. This makes it return to you. As you can see, I shoot it once and then does damage on the way back. It doesn't do quite as much damage on the way back, but still does a good amount, and it's almost a damage double, or maybe 75% more damage from this node. So everything else very straightforward. More damage, converting your spell damage to more melee damage, more versus ignited, more. This is flat, so on and so forth. So that is Flame Reave. Lightning Blast is really just a utility skill for our case. Most important thing here is getting Lightning Aegis, because great source of tankiness, and it gives you a little bit of increased damage. And then past that, we're going into here to get a little bit of increased damage, because why not? And then out here for the blind chance, just to not have to worry about crit and vulnerability, because blind makes them not be able to crit you. Enchant Weapon. This is, extremely important skill for any melee build. We're coming here, active duration, very important. It's a 13-second cooldown, and with this skill, it lasts 9 seconds. You can get this cooldown even more if you scale up your cooldown reduction. So the less downtime we have of Enchant Weapon, the higher our DPS is, because we're getting 50% attack speed, an increased elemental damage. We're getting leech from it, as well as flat lightning and flat fire, as well as more increased lightning and increased fire. So when Enchant Weapon is active, you have a huge DPS multiplier. So this is an extremely important skill to have. And then up here, this is just Cleanses Ailment and some stacks of Fire Aura. Honestly, I could spec out of this and put the points into here, since I'm not actually using Fire Aura for anything. And then finally, second to last, we have Surge. Surge is really just using it as a movement skill. It's got some utility in it, though. So from a movement perspective, I'm coming down here into travel distance, and then some ward gain when you hit an enemy. A little bit of survivability there. On the left side, we're coming over here for the immobilized duration. Again, CC is always good. Right here, we're casting Lightning Blast on traveling. This is more source of Lightning Blast, more ways to proc our Lightning Aegis. And then over here, we are, this is really just to gain more ward when you cast it from the dormant energy stacks. And then this is converting it to fire, which is not really important. What's important is that we cast a Flame Reave on arrival, which is, just nice for clearing maps and so on and so forth. And then finally, just Flame Ward, very, amazing defensive skill. Auto cast when stunned, extra charge, and then a bunch of less damage taken on hit, less elemental damage taken, increased duration and mana efficiency, increased fire damage while you have it. Well, it's actually converted to increased lightning damage, but depending on what you have more of, you can spec into or out of this node. So that is the skills. Next, let us go into our gear. Now, this is by no means fully optimized, but, cleared Abberoth with it, so it's doing well enough. So the two most important parts of this build are the ring, which is Legends Entwine, which gives us all attributes per complete set, all resistances per complete set, and 1+1 to all skills per complete set. This is incredibly strong, honestly kind of a broken item, because we just stack up a bunch of sets on all of our other items. And I'll show you that. The second most important item here is a set item, the new Abandoned Eyes of the Weaver Amulet, which is giving us crit chance per 40 total attributes, +1 to level of all skills per 120 total attributes. These are nice to have, but not why this is broken. Again, all these stats are nice. What's broken is, for our case, the actual set bonus here, which is legendary affixes on equipped Weaver's Will weapons have 50% increased effect. That is why we are running 2 Scissors of Atropos. And I have I've rolled a whole lot of these. This is basically all I've been spending my gold on the market and my Runes of Weaving. But I feel like I've gotten, super lucky with this one. I've gotten T7 flat lightning and T7 increased lightning damage on this. And that 103% increased stun chance with melee attacks is incredibly strong for bossing, because you can keep bosses stunned for, basically the whole fight, at least at 300 corruption, which I'm at. And even fighting Abberoth, it was, I was stunning him very frequently with just this stat. So in my opinion, the strongest stats to get on these are flat, either fire or lightning, and then attack speed, and then penetration on a suffix, and then stun chance on the other suffix. This one, I actually have flat fire damage on it, and a much worse increased fire damage. I think this is still a pretty lucky hit, especially with the corruption, which gives me increased area for area skills, which matters much more if you're using the circle version of Flame Reave, but less so with this version that just shoots out in front of you. So one thing to note, right, flat lightning and flat fire both work because of this node where we have 50% of base damage is lightning, and then originally it's 50% fire. So both of them scale our damage equally well. Obviously, this sword also gives you a bunch of other stuff. It's got, down at the bottom here, we have our flat damage, increased attack speed, +2 to melee attacks, as well as some vitality, which gives us health. And some resistances. So from these 2 swords alone, we're getting +4 to our Flame Reave. And then what's not to be forgotten, right, is this set affix. Legendary affixes have 50% increased effect. So instead of 62 lightning damage, this is like 90 flat lightning damage, and almost 300% increased lightning damage, as well as 150% increased stun chance, and likewise for the flat fire damage here. So that's why having 2 of these Weaver's Will items is super important. Now there are other Weaver's Will weapons. There's a mace. There's a different sword that's one-handed that you can get. I think this one is just the best because the only thing that isn't good for us is the stacks of Kismet, which we ignore. So this is where a huge portion of our power budget is coming in. On the chest, then, we have +4 to Flame Reave, and then Intelligence. Intelligence is kind of the main stat that we're stacking here, and then past that, just health and resistances. And you'll find that basically on the suffixes for all of the gear, you're basically looking for just more health, more resistances. And in the prefixes, you're just looking for intelligence and attack speed. On the helmet, we are crafting onto the Velatria set. And, you know, right, it's a 2-piece set bonus, so this helmet plus the ring is +1 all skills, +3 all res, +4 all attributes with my current ring. Obviously, this can roll even higher to 5% all attributes and 5% all res, so, you know, keep that in mind. But, you know, the set bonus on this is actually stronger than you think. We are stacking intelligence. Right now, I've got 118 int. And in our Flame Reave tree, you'll see that we have, you know, we gain melee damage equal to our spell damage. So all of the, you know, spell lightning damage that we're getting from this is actually converted into more flat damage for our melee attack. So very strong set bonus, and then obviously intelligence. The other ring, intelligence, elemental damage, and then the Pharaoh's set, another 2-piece set. Don't care at all about the set bonus in this case, but it gives us the bonus from this, which is, you know, having that +1 int and +20 armor for totems. You know, the int doesn't suck, but really the purpose is this, that actually gives us +1 all skills, all res, and all attributes. And then the final set bonus we're getting is from our relic, you know, intelligence, crit multi, and then this is the Shattered Lance set, which again, we don't get any benefit from the actual set here since we're not doing melee cold damage, but we do get the bonus from the ring. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 set bonuses that we're getting. So, you know, this ring is giving us +4 all skills, +12 all resistances, and +16 all attributes. So pretty strong. And then belt, we're just looking at mostly just health. And the gloves, I'm using the Swaddling of Erase because I got some pretty decent rolls on it. You know, it's better when I was using the circle one because the increased area, you feel that a lot. In this case, you know, I think I'd rather just have intelligence and melee attack speed. So, you know, I could definitely improve these a lot, but not important. And then the boots, again, just movement speed. Got a nice double exalt on here with double T7 movement speed and armor. But then past that, you're just looking at dexterity, intelligence, and resistances. So that is the most of the gear. As far as idols go, there's a lot of stuff you can do. You know, getting a bunch of increased armor is nice with the new weavers. You can get some good corruptions and fit in some more, you know, increased cooldown recovery speed for surge. You know, you can get ward retention. You can get melee elemental damage. There's a lot of good stuff you can get on these. I really haven't optimized them yet, but generally for your idol altar, you want plus, like the most important thing is plus to maximum omen idol, so you can equip more of these you know, new ones that are very strong, and then past that, just increased effect of prefixes and suffixes, so they're stronger. And I think the best actual, like the strongest altar shape is going to be the pyramidal one. That gives you cooldown reduction if you know, meet the criteria, and it also has like the most refracted slots, so you can get a ton of idols having that boost in it. So that is the gear I'm running, and then finally the passive tree. In the base, just health, intelligence. I put some points into this just to give us more lightning blast casts. You want to have like a certain minimum number to make sure you have your lightning aegis up as much as possible. You know, our lightning blast only gives us a 10% chance on cast to actually give us lightning aegis for 4 seconds. So you need, you know, a number of different methods to cast it outside of this, since this is only 3 per 2 seconds. You know, I put some points into this just to have some more sources of lightning blast cast to make sure I have my lightning aegis up as much as possible. Past that, attack speed and some points in here for crit multi, although I might spec these out into somewhere else. Rune Master, it's just the 8 points for the damage reduction and health. This is just basically gimme on any single mage build. You know, 8% less damage taken, and the flat health is basically always strong. In this tree, then, we're taking some points into the flat, melee, and spell. Both of these apply for us. The 5-point bonus for extra ward decay threshold per 10 max health. We are stacking health, so we get a lot of value out of that bonus. And then the armor, these are great defensive nodes for the increased armor and less damage taken, plus the more armor and whatnot. Some points in here for the vitality, melee fire damage doesn't hurt, melee attack speed, ward gained on hit. This is actually a pretty important node to helping us getting crit capped. I think in the aspirational version of this build it won't be as necessary, but for now this helps cap you out. And Flame Reave does scale on dexterity, so you get some good increased damage from dexterity as well. I have to take this to dual wield. This is great for mana on hit. Again, dexterity and intelligence are both good for us, so this is pretty strong to just get the 4-point bonus because the dodge rating doesn't hurt either. This is also just a generically strong node for the move speed and attack speed. And then this is actually incredibly important for us and basically makes it so we never have to use Mana Strike at all. You'll notice that I never even spec'd into it. I do have it on my bar just in case I do happen to run out of mana for whatever reason, but if you go back to the Abberoth fight, I ran out of mana like maybe one time and just used unspec'd Mana Strike to fill up quickly, and that was all I needed. So basically the fact that this skill only costs 7.8 mana, and if you combine that with this mana regen, you basically never have to worry about mana again. Apart from that, we have some 5 points into this, and then more points into this to make sure we're getting our crit, and this helps give us a lot of ward retention or extra ward per second since we are stacking intelligence. You'll notice that I'm sitting at basically 2,000 flat ward, so pretty strong node there. More ward retention and increased cooldown recovery for Surge, and then finally a little bit of an armor bonus here. So nothing too crazy here, and I think there's maybe some room to optimize this a little bit. I think I'm not level 100 yet. I'm only I'm level 96, so my last 4 points will probably go into this node, since the flat spell damage again actually does give us more flat damage for Flame Reave, so I'll probably put my last points into here. So that is the base of this build, and amazing damage, feels great to play. The new cosmetic looks amazing. Pretty speedy mapping, pretty tanky overall. I'd like to get my armor up a little bit higher, so I'll see what I can do with optimizing my omen or my idols a little bit, maybe getting some more armor on my gear somehow. This chest is going to be hard to replace, but yeah, that is pretty good so far. Now, as far as actually getting this gear together, obviously rolling these swords is just down to pure Gamba chance. And there's some things that you can do to, that you can play with in the meantime while you're working on that if you do want to run this build. So I put together this pre-setup that you can run here, which is basically the same, but instead of running those Clotho swords, you run this Jormun's Feast sword, which is incredibly strong, just as like a base sword, has a ton of flat damage, flat crit chance, and melee attack speed, which all are amazing stats for this build. And then you'll notice the 2 set actually gives us more damage while dual wielding if your main hand is different than your offhand. And so in your main hand, you could actually run a Nest of Nightmares if you get a good roll on one of those Weaver skills, or you could just run any other axe, mace, or scepter. All of those are great for this build if you just run an exalted one. So the set bonus on this is great. Another 10 crit multi on the 3 set, and then just make sure that you either just run the set belt, which is pretty solid in and of itself, or craft a shard onto a regular belt. So this is a great way to get started. Again, you don't need to run the Nest of Nightmares. It is a very strong option if you're running this, and I think could be almost as good as running the double swords. Obviously, you're missing out on some plus skills because this doesn't have +2 to your melee skills on it like the these swords do. But it has a absolute metric fuck ton of crit multi on it. You can get up to 90 on the implicit, plus another up to 45 rolled on the modifiers. Gives you health leech, and the spiders is actually very strong because spiders gives you basically a crit chance boost, so you don't have to worry about your crit basically at all. So very good intermediate. Could be just basically a complete replacement, especially if you get a really good corruption on the Jorman's Feast sword. Now, aspirationally, finally, I think at the very highest end of the gear, the 2 swords is definitely going to be better. Getting T7 flat melee. Increased, you would want, that's not the right one, this is the right one. So getting like T7 flat, and then melee attack speed and fire penetration, like if you can get all these stats on it, it would be insane. Likewise for if you can get crit multi, melee attack speed, flat damage are the best suffixes, and then fire pen or lightning pen and melee stun are the best suffixes. So if you can get those together, that would be crazy. I put some time into optimizing the altars a little bit, some gear. So I'll put the links to all of these planners for you in the description. And I hope you have fun blasting with this build. If you do, make sure you give me a like and subscribe, because I'll be hopefully putting out some more builds in the future once I get things together with maybe Shatter Strike as well as the new Bane of Winter Staff. So with that, I will see you next time. GG's.